And I do want to start off by saying that, nutrition and hormone support are very, very individualized. So there will be a lot of concepts tonight that you might find apply directly to you. And there will probably be a few concepts that, don't really apply so much to your individual situation. Jess, hello, welcome. I know that food, specifically food that tastes delicious, can be used as like a numbing or coping mechanism for millions, maybe even billions of people. And so many of you guys here, much like it was for myself back in the day when I was struggling severely with binge eating disorder. So I do know how debilitating it can feel when you keep telling yourself like, oh, this is going to be my last binge. I'm going to start my healthy diet on Monday. And you keep breaking that integrity with yourself time and time again, right? And because, we often fall back into those default habits because like we talked about on day one of this challenge in the mindset training, our mind is designed to keep us safe, not necessarily keep us happy, right? So we eat that food, it tastes so good, we feel good, it's helping us, get that little dopamine hit. Maybe we've had a hard day, maybe we're going through stuff mentally, emotionally. We get that little dopamine spike from the delicious, whatever it is you like. For me, it was usually Nanaimo bars. I know a lot of people here like chips. I'm not a big chip person. I know a lot of you guys here from Newfoundland, and so is my spouse, and he's obsessed with, well, he's not obsessed with chips, he's very healthy, but he likes chips. I'm like, chips taste like deep fried air. You guys, if you like chips, drop it in the comment, but I don't know. I'm more of was more of a sweet person. But anyways, we can even get addicted to how that food makes us feel, more so mentally than physically, because often those trigger foods or the more processed foods, the more quote unquote junky food, which we are going to be talking about tonight and breaking down and clearing up some myths around that. But it's, even if they physically make us feel gross, they make us feel bloated, it's kind of that mental addiction. We get addicted to how we feel when we eat that food. It gives us some sense of safety. And like we talked about in challenge number 1 on Monday, it's like sometimes we question why we can't break away from these default habits. And it's just simply that those habits are so deeply ingrained into us and they are so in our comfort zone that it is actually terrifying to think of who you are without binge eating, who you are without emotional eating. And again, we fall back into that safety net of our default habits. And as a result, those poor nutrition habits, they result in us struggling with potentially hormonal issues from things like chronic undereating, from yo-yo dieting, because, we feel like a failure, we gain weight as a result of eating, overeating, binge eating, and then we fall into these yo-yo diets, these quick fixes, and end up with nutritional deficiencies. We end up with poor stress management skills, burnout, high body fat percentages, prolonged misuse of carbohydrates, which we're going to talk about tonight as well, meaning you're eating too few carbohydrates or you're eating too many carbohydrates. Excuse me, guys, I'm losing my voice from talking too much these last 3 days. Some of the things that can come up if you are struggling with hormonal issues as a result of those nutritional deficiencies is, skin or hair issues, digestive issues, insulin resistance, loss of libido, low energy, trouble sleeping. There are a ton. If you guys have experienced any of those, you can drop me in the comments. And, those issues themselves, especially trouble sleeping, they can cause more issues in themselves. The issues cause more issues, right? It is a very interconnected, complex web of issues. For women, irregular menstrual cycles, changes in your appetite, changes in your mood, poor recovery, feeling cold all of the time, and like a lot of you guys have mentioned in this challenge so far, trouble losing weight. Okay, trouble losing weight. So we end up jumping on those fad diets, going in the quick fixes, but the problem is they don't actually address the root of the problem. They don't actually address what is really going on inside your body. They're kind of an outside-in approach instead of an inside-out approach. So it's basically like putting a Band-Aid on top of an infection, right? It might feel like it makes it better in the very, very, very short term, but long term, often you end up in such a worse situation. Courtney, what is up? Kelly and Amanda are also sweet, more sweet than savory. Cherry says, these 3 days are just my need to boost myself. Cherry's one of our clients at Cut Conquer in the Academy. She's absolutely killing it. She's working with Ramsey Courtney's one of my clients. What is up, girl? Okay, so back on track, you guys. So when we, fall into these crazy diets that we have all tried. I know a lot of you guys have tried them. Back in the day, I have also tried those crazy extreme approaches. They also can downregulate your metabolism even more than it already is. If you're a client, you will know all about that. We also have a podcast on that. It's called How to Eat for Weight Loss Without Wrecking Your Metabolism. Highly recommend that one. It is really, really insightful, right? But there's also, when we think about hormones, specifically, insulin, cortisol, thyroid hormones, they're often labeled as like the bad hormones, right? They get this really bad reputation. Insulin, for instance, it gets kind of like the label of the fat storage hormone. Maybe you guys have heard that before, but insulin is actually a very important, very useful hormone. It is very anabolic. Meaning it is really important for muscle growth. Maybe you guys have heard those terms. Like the way I remember it, and I've told this to my clients, is like anabolic. If you think like anabolic steroids, it's like building up, right? So anabolic usually is talking about building something, building muscle. You want to be in an anabolic state. Catabolic is the opposite. I always think of a cat, like ripping things apart. So catabolic typically means breaking things down. So typically in fitness, we want to be as insulin sensitive as possible, right? Because insulin helps shuttle your amino acids, which are the kind of building blocks of protein, into your muscle cells. Once inside, the amino acids are going to help with muscle repair, rebuild, specifically after a weight training session. Insulin also works alongside specific hormones like growth hormone, testosterone, and again, everything is very interconnected. So they're basically creating optimal conditions for enhancing an overall anabolic response to your training when you eat after your weight training, right? And this is why carbohydrate timing pre and post workout is really, really important. Timing the portions and the amounts and the types of carbohydrates. That's why in Shred, we are very specific about, pre-workout nutrition, post-workout nutrition, also breakfast, and also the last meal of your day. So like everything, but I'm going to talk about why we are specific about that in tonight's training. So if you are someone who is, constantly eating processed carbs or, something like regularly skipping meals, especially during the day, you are kind of giving, your hormones are messengers, right? So you're getting mixed signals with your insulin. And sometimes it can force it to actually overcompensate, right? Same concept applies with cortisol. Again, cortisol gets that really bad reputation. It's your stress hormone, right? So high levels of cortisol, I should say, chronically elevated cortisol can make fat loss harder. You do want a spike in your cortisol, but it should be first thing in the morning and it should be lowering throughout the day. So if you are having, random cortisol spikes or chronically elevated high cortisol, we really want to dig into like, what is causing that? And I'm going to explain why a little bit later on in today's training. But why is that happening to you? Is it chronic stress? Is it poor sleep? Is it under eating? Like, what is the underlying culprit? Because it's not cortisol itself that is bad, right? Your body is designed to adapt and thrive when you are giving it what it needs and when it is being fueled correctly. So your hormones, they don't act in isolation, right? They're part of a system, a bigger system. And that system is going to respond to the inputs and outputs, meaning like your training, your cardio, stress, all those things. They're going to act in response to that and how you are essentially treating and fueling your body. Does this make sense, you guys? Let me know in the comments so far. So again, your hormones often are not the problem, not in isolation anyways. They're doing their job to the best of their ability based on the signals that you are sending them, right? So tonight we are going to be diving deep into weight loss, calories, macros, gut health, hormones, and nutrition as a whole, because hormones are a very, very overutilized scapegoat. It is so easy to blame all of our problems on our hormones when it is not our hormones in isolation, and very often it's not even the hormones actually causing the problem. Okay. And the biggest takeaway point, you guys, tonight that I really hope to, drive home to everyone is a lot of the hormonal issues that you are having, or the struggles with weight loss resistance that you are having, can be completely or very massively solved with proper nutrition. Okay. That is one lesson I wish I really knew and understood and took seriously from the time I was born, is like how imperative proper nutrition is for your fitness goals. It is, it is so much more important than your training. It is everything. Nutrition, you guys, is everything. And if you are not taking it seriously, unfortunately, it is highly unlikely you will ever achieve your goals. And I know that sounds harsh. I want it to sound harsh because that is how serious it is. That, and the next would be sleep. Sleep is also very important. So a couple of things that I hear a lot from, new clients reaching out to see if Cut and Conquer is a fit for them, and just people in general, are things like, I eat pretty healthy, but I'm not seeing the progress that I want. Or I hardly eat anything, but I'm still not able to lose weight. Okay. And eating less or eating healthy, you guys, it is not a strategy. Eating less, or what was the other thing I said? Eating healthy. Yes. Eating healthy or eating less, they are not a strategy. You're literally trial and erroring things. You are throwing shit at the wall and you are hoping that something sticks. Right? And I know you guys are probably thinking like, oh my God, Christina, but like, can't it just be that easy? Like, can't it just be eat less or just eat healthy, please? But it's actually easier. It is actually easier than that, because once you commit to an actual program that is tailored to your unique individual needs, and we figure out what you have been missing, progress gets so much easier. Courtney is in our program right now. She says, that was my biggest takeaway from the first time I went through a building phase with you. Minimal workouts, but actually started eating enough of the proper foods and lost more weight. Exactly. So many people are trying to hit the gym 5, 6, 7 times. They're doing weights, they're doing cardio, they're doing everything. And then their appetite, their cortisol is through the roof chronically. Their, Bella, what is up? Bella can also speak to hormones because she has had her fair share of hormonal struggles. Bella, drop in a comment, what is up? But yeah, with Courtney, a lot of the weight that she was able to lose still was like inflammation, water retention, fat, not just, oh, the scale went down. Because as we're going to talk about tonight, the scale number can go down and you can feel worse, you can look worse, and you can have a higher body fat percentage because your hormones are out of whack and potentially your body fat is increasing, right? So I'm going to list 5 fundamental nutrition principles that I strongly believe in and that we really do embody at Cut and Conquer. Okay, so if you're taking notes, you may want to write these down. Cherry, one of our clients in the academy, says, yes, starving yourself is never the solution. You need food to fuel yourself. Absolutely. Bella, absolutely. I have had issues with hormones. They ain't no joke. Yeah. Bella has had a lot. If you guys want to hear a very inspiring story, Bella's interview on the podcast is a 2-part series. Bella, drop the episode number if you remember it. It's fairly recent. It's called like From Rock Bottom to Frickin' Amazing. Check that one out. She's super inspiring. So 5 fundamental nutrition principles. First one, in order to have success in fitness, you have to create the space mentally to allow for that success. Okay, that one is very basic, but so very important, because if you are overwhelmed and stressed out and exhausted and putting everyone and everything above yourself, you don't have the capacity and I don't have the capacity to help you figure this shit out. So you have to, and we have to remove the overwhelm first. We want to take out the guesswork, simplify everything and lay everything out very simply for you, because otherwise you're going to keep spinning in circles. Like we talked about on day 1, you can't diagnose the prescription inside the bottle, right? You got to get out of that craziness. Bella says episode 144. Check that one out, you guys. Number 2 is calories and macros do matter, and they matter a lot. But micronutrients, your vitamins and your minerals, they also matter, and they also matter a lot. I have two more, but first off, I just want to say that is why I personally don't align with a lot of quote unquote flexible dieting approaches, or if it fits your macros, or some intuitive eating approaches, because they give you a number of calories or a number of macros and say, there you go. And it's like, okay, but when do I eat it? What do I eat? How do I time it? What portions do I split it into? What ratio do I eat it in? And then people wonder why like macros don't work for them, right? So first one was create the space. Next one was calories and macros matter. Micronutrients, vitamins and minerals also matter. Meal timing matters. I cannot believe that fitness professionals, even like dietitians, say, oh, it doesn't matter. It's just calories in, calories out. Like, I feel like a basic like kindergartner could comprehend the fact that of course, when you eat your food matters. Like, of course it does, you guys. I'm going to talk a little more about that. But especially your carbohydrate timing, especially your pre and post workout nutrition. Like, those are the most important in my opinion. Other meals are also going to be important, but it depends more on your individual lifestyle and schedule and individual body. And then the fifth one is planning ahead. No matter what nutrition approach you're doing, if you are doing flexible dieting, if you are following a plan, whatever that looks like, meal prep and planning ahead is essential. That can look very different for a lot of people. Meal prep doesn't have to be, oh, I put all my food in Tupperware containers and that's all I eat. There are so many ways to do it. We have a podcast on that as well called like All Your Meal Prep Problem Solved, I think. And it breaks down like 15 different styles of meal prep that can work for people, right? But meal prepping, or at the very least being intentional and proactive about your nutrition planning, it is a requirement. It is a requirement. So, and then there are a few little variations that are also going to come into play, such as gut health, food sensitivities, different cooking styles, and your dieting history. We're also going to dive into that later in today's episode, or I guess it's not episode, it's a training. So I'm going to list off some nutrition mistakes and misconceptions, and I want you guys to comment me in the chat if you have ever done any of these. Courtney says, first off, yeah, 100%, haven't hit my macros if I don't meal prep the night before. Exactly. So, and Courtney actually does do flexible dieting, but Courtney has been a client with me for a very long time, and we have really established a really strong, baseline and understanding of what works for her. I'm going to talk a little bit about that kind of how we got there as well. So let me know in the chat, have you guys done any of these nutrition mistakes? And I'm going to say that I have done almost all of these myself in the past. So don't be ashamed, no judgment here. Not eating enough during the day. Not having high protein in your first meal of the day. Not optimizing your pre and post workout nutrition. Not giving your body time to adapt to nutritional changes. Slashing calories too quickly. Cutting carbs too quickly or completely, or not understanding why you are cutting carbs. Shannon says, meal prep is huge for me. If I don't have it ready, I don't eat enough. I hear you. Not enough variation to your fat sources. No metrics in place. Essentially, you're winging it. Maybe you're meal prepping, but you don't know how many carbs to eat. You don't know how much protein you need. You don't know the amount of fats or the type of fats you need to be consuming, or how much in each portion for your unique goals and body. You are using a macro calculator to determine your macros. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Another really big mistake. I was talking about this to my 12-year-old stepson, and he knows the difference. But I didn't know the difference until I was like 22, probably, maybe a bit younger. But thinking that 100 grams of chicken, and this is just an example, equates to 100 grams of protein. Nope. I shouldn't say I can't believe, because I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad, but it's unfortunate how many people think that, oh, I ate 100 grams of rice is a carb, that's 100 grams of carbs. No, it's not. For example, 100 grams of chicken is going to be closer to 20 to 25 grams of protein. Not using a reverse diet after you have lost weight. And no weight loss exit strategy, right? You lose the weight and then you end up gaining it back because you had no exit strategy? Let me know. I see a lot of yeses. Kristen, Nicole, Janine, Bella says, absolutely have feared food, but now it's all I want and I enjoy my meals. Absolutely. And Bella is in a very anabolic state. We're actually doing like a little mini recomp before we go back into her building phase, but her primary goal right now is to build muscle. So, all right, let's talk about calories. This is important. I know calories can be boring or confusing maybe, but they are fascinating and important. Water break, you guys. Okay. Stacey, all I do is wing it. Would love to learn strategies for nutrition goals. Yes. The thing is, we're always changing, right? So even Bella, for example, Bella has gone through a prep. Bella has gone through a building phase. Like, Bella, your nutrition looks so different at every single point and every single phase in your journey, right? And that's the thing. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll just do what I did 2 years ago. Well, you're in a completely different place now than you were 2 years ago, right? And that's why I love nutrition, because everything is constantly changing and evolving. And we're going to also talk about that. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So calories. First off, your calorie intake, how many calories you consume, will determine if you are losing weight or if you are gaining weight. Okay? Not your training. Your calories will determine if you are losing weight or gaining weight, not your training. But your macros, meaning the distribution of those calories, will determine how your body looks, feels, and responds to your training. Does that make sense, you guys? And I'm going to break it down a little further. Calories will determine weight loss or weight gain. Macros will determine how your body looks, how your body feels, and how your body responds to your training. Now, there are training styles that are going to be more conducive to weight loss and some that are going to be more conducive to muscle growth. But we're not going to go into that tonight. We're going to focus on nutrition. So, how many of you guys have heard of a calorie deficit? Drop it in the chat if you have, just say yes. Or if you've heard maybe someone say like calories in versus calories out, drop it in the chat. Let me know. I'm going to refresh and view my comments over here on my computer. Nicole has her hand up. So calorie deficit, that is thrown around a lot for good reason, because it is essential. Courtney says, yes, maybe you've heard calorie surplus, which would be the opposite, calories in versus calories out, right? A lot of the time I see these posts on Instagram, on Facebook groups, and it's like, I need to lose weight. And people are like, oh, just do a calorie deficit. And be like, oh, okay. But it's like, do you know what that is and what that means? Okay, lots of yeses coming in now. Shannon, Cherry, Kelly, Stacy. Okay, so another question for you guys. It's not a trick question. I mean, I guess it kind of is a trick question if I'm being honest. Are all calories equal? Are all calories equal? Do you think yes or do you think no? Let me know in the chat. It is kind of a trick question, so don't be afraid to say yes or say no, because I'll explain why in a minute. Are all calories equal? Drop your answer in the chat. Kelly says no. Bella says no. Nicole says no. Cherry says no. Ashley says no. Amanda, no. Well, you guys are all wrong. You guys are all wrong. A calorie is a unit of measure. So, yes, I told you guys it wasn't a trick question. It was kind of a trick question. But fun, like, you guys are right on the right track, but technically you're wrong. So, now someone's gonna be like, yes. So bear with me because I appreciate you guys dropping in those answers. A calorie, the definition of a calorie, technically it's a kilocalorie, because in society we measure it as a calorie and we call it a calorie. It's technically a kilocalorie, but anyways, that is kind of irrelevant. 1 calorie is actually the energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius. So a calorie is a unit of measure. Technically, they're all equal, but it is a very misleading statement. And for people who are not dietitians or nutritionists, I would say the concept of all calories are equal is incorrect. Does that make sense, you guys? The analogy that I like for this, and I know some of you guys are in America and you might use miles or whatever. In Canada, we use kilometers, but we also use inches. I don't know why we do that. But for example, if you think of a kilometer, every kilometer is still a kilometer. It's 1,000 meters. It will not change. It is a kilometer. A mile is a mile. Whatever distance a mile is, it is a mile. It doesn't matter anything else. It is a mile. It is a unit of measure. That is the same thing with a calorie. However, this is why and where the nuance really comes in, and why, like, personally as a philosophy, like, I don't believe like all calories are the same. You know what I mean? So if you take a kilometer and you put that kilometer straight uphill, going up that kilometer is going to be very different than if that kilometer is straight downhill. They are both 1 kilometer. One is uphill, one is downhill. Another one might be a flat road, right? Then let's add in a weather condition. So uphill on a hot summer day is going to be a lot more challenging to run up than downhill on a nice overcast day. Very, very, very different situation. Your body is going to respond very, very different to that same kilometer. It's the same distance. There's the same unit of measure. Lots of different situations. Now, so we have, is it uphill? Is it downhill? Is it flat? Then we have the weather. Is it raining? Is it snowing? Is it hot? Is it icy? Then we have, how are you actually traveling that kilometer? Are you biking? Are you walking? Are you crawling? Are you rolling? Are you driving? Are you flying? Because that is also going to affect how effectively and how quickly and how easily you move that distance. Does that make sense to you guys? Let me know if that makes sense, because the calories in, calories out model, it sounds very straightforward. Consume less calories or burn more calories if you want to lose weight, right? Very simple concept, but it is an oversimplification that doesn't account for how macronutrients, so your carbs, your proteins, and your fats, as well as the micronutrients within those, or the lack of micronutrients, are processed and utilized by each individual body and metabolism. Kelly says, yes, that makes sense. Jillian, yes, big time makes sense. Awesome, you guys. So again, just to set the stage for a little bit of extra info, your macronutrients also are going to contain a select amount of calories. So carbs will always have 4 calories per gram. 1 gram of carbs, 4 calories. Protein, 1 gram of protein, 4 calories. Fats, 1 gram of fat, 9 calories. Okay, that's always going to be the same no matter what. However, the calories, for example, from protein and fat are going to affect hormones like insulin and glucagon differently than calories from carbohydrates. Likewise, protein, for example, has a higher thermic effect, meaning it requires more energy to break down, digest, and metabolize protein than it does carbs or fats. So not all of the calories from protein are always going to be available for like fat storage, for example. Can you store protein as fat? Absolutely. But your body doesn't prefer it. So you will actually, because protein has a higher thermic effect, burn more calories simply by eating more protein. Now, it's not going to be like an astronomical amount of 1,000 calories, but you will burn more. Another example, and again, this is a very nitpicky example, but for someone who is like, doing a competition prep, or like a really fine-tuned approach, which again, the majority of you guys, it's not going to be you guys, but I want to give this example anyways. Like even if you take peanut butter and peanuts, and even if you equated them exactly to be the same calories, you're going to net less consuming peanuts than peanut butter, because peanut butter has already been processed. It has already been partially digested. Whereas when you eat peanuts, you have to chew them up, and then your body has to do more work digesting and breaking them down. Does that kind of make sense? Now, again, in the general public, even someone who's on an aggressive weight loss journey, it's not going to make a huge difference. But for someone who is in something like a competition prep and only eating a select amount of calories per day, it's going to make a difference over a month. Excuse me. Carbs, especially refined carbs. Like we talked about insulin at the beginning. Insulin is not the devil. Insulin is not bad. It is a very important anabolic hormone. However, sometimes we want that anabolic response, and sometimes, we don't want a certain insulin response, right? The whole like calories in, calories out model, it doesn't account for metabolic health. It doesn't account for hormone health. Two people can eat the exact same number of calories, but experience vastly different outcomes based on various factors: gut health, insulin sensitivity, hormone balance, dieting history, and an abundance of other things. Kate, what is up? Hello. Kate, you will want to replay it for sure. Because it's not just about the calories, it's about how the calories interact with your body's unique biology, right? Now, macronutrients, macros, and your macro breakdown is so important for your body composition. Now, what I mean by body composition is, for those of you who don't know, is the ratio of fat to muscle, or your ratio of fat to basically lean body mass, meaning obviously like your bones and organs and all of that stuff, right? And that's actually what we want to focus on. And that's what we do focus on at Cut and Conquer with our clients, is not just weight loss, but actually, fat loss and maintaining lean mass or building lean mass, depending on your goals. So so many people are not getting enough protein, or they're eating too many carbs, or too few carbs, or not the right kinds of fats, or not the right ratio of certain kinds of fats, right? Omega-3, 6, 9, polysaturated, monosaturated. There's a lot of different types of fats. I could do a whole training on fats. But you can lose weight in a calorie deficit no matter what you eat. But the key is that you don't want to actually just lose weight. You want to specifically lose body fat. And there's some ways to do that. I tagged, a few of you guys in the fat loss training in our other free group that talks about the difference between muscle growth and fat loss, because a lot of you guys are saying like, oh, my goal is to build muscle and lose fat. And if that's your goal, that's fine. I don't recommend that goal because you're going to make it way harder and a way longer process for yourself by trying to do them both at the same time, because inherently they go against one another. Can you do them both at the same time? Yes, but not well. Unless you are brand new to the gym, to fitness, never worked out before. That's kind of the exception. So the takeaway point of that is, you can have a higher body fat percentage and actually weigh less, actually have lost weight, but you have also lost lean mass. And we see that happen so much, especially when you are just focusing on your calories and you're not focusing on your macros or your micros, or you are doing too much cardio or not the right style of weight training, or you have, hormonal imbalances or a downregulated metabolism that has not been fixed from the inside out. Let me know if that makes sense. And that is also why I hate macro calculators, you guys. I absolutely cannot stand macro calculators. Let me know in the comments. I am very, very genuinely curious. For those of you who have, or I guess I should just say, have you guys ever tried a macro calculator and found that it does not work for you? Like, you try to do those macros and you do not get results, right? Let me know. Because, for example, if I put my stats into like a macro calculator, it will tell me that I can eat like 1,200 calories, but I can eat like 3,000 calories. So it's super screwed up. And it's because, macro calculators, some do take into consideration age, gender, activity levels, goal, weight, and height. I think that's what it asks for. But it doesn't take into consideration dieting history, current food intake. And dieting history, I mean, like, have you been binging for 15 years? Have you been under eating for 5 years? Have you been yo-yo dieting, right? What does that look like? Have you been eating a healthy diet? Who knows? Current food intake, daily activity level, lifestyle, like stress management, amount of stress, recovery, sleep, ability to recover, work. Do you work night shifts? Do you work day shifts? Do you work 15 hours? Do you work part-time? It doesn't take into account your muscle mass. Some might, most don't, or your body fat percentage. They don't take into account your training frequency. They don't take into account your training style. They don't take into account your training splits. Shannon says, oh yeah, and it was so different from the plans that you made for me. Yeah, I find that very seldomly have I like calculated a client's macros with a calculator. and they're actually what they should be eating for their goals. Like I would say 85% of the time, it's significantly off. Significantly. So a few things that, at Cut and Conquer, the coaches consider when we are setting up a nutrition program are, well, of course, everything I listed already, like dieting history is a huge one for me. Like that is like one of the most important things that I am going to take into consideration. But also food preferences, right? Meal and macro timing. What time of day are you training, right? What time of day are you waking up? What time of day are you going to bed? And how long on average are you sleeping? And how good is that sleep? Are you waking up rested, or are you waking up throughout the night and waking up exhausted? Making sure that you are eating protein multiple times per day, because like we talked about, eating protein in and itself will burn more calories. Eating protein also stimulates muscle protein synthesis, meaning even just eating protein is going to stimulate muscle growth, assuming you are also resistance training. We also want to consider carb and insulin sensitivity, specifically around your workouts, because the goal, and I don't like to say this is the goal for everyone, but it kind of should be, is to build your metabolic capacity, meaning improve your body's ability to actually utilize food, right? And then you're able to eat more and maintain a leaner physique. There's also going to be key nutrients and or supplementation that you might require if you do have something like hypothyroidism, PCOS, all of these types of things, right? There's so many individual factors that a macro calculator is not going to consider. I need to take a drink. If you guys have comments, drop them in there. So, another question that we got a lot is like, can you gain weight from eating too little? Right? Starvation mode, is it real? Technically, no. Technically, starvation mode is not real. If it were, people would not die of starvation. They would get fatter, right? However, again, like the whole calories in, calories out thing, it can be misleading, because if you chronically undereat or chronically yo-yo diet, your body is going to adapt to that. And that's why I was talking about at the very beginning. If you guys picked up on that or remember, it said giving your body time to adapt to nutrition changes, right? And if you have downregulated your metabolism to the fact, and if you guys listen to the podcast Reverse Dieting too, I break it down with like numbers. I don't want to do that tonight because Jillian said there's so much to consider. Yeah, and if I start throwing numbers at you guys, it's going to be even more. But essentially, every time you go on a diet and don't have an exit strategy and don't reverse diet properly, and then you end up overeating and binging or giving into cravings, you're kind of screwing up your metabolism. There's a science behind it, but it will take me too long to explain it tonight. There's a podcast on it. But essentially, every time you do a diet that fails, assuming you are restricting calories, you are going to be slowing down your metabolism. And then you're going to make it way easier to gain that fat back. Because if your metabolic rate used to be sitting at 2,000 calories, but then you started eating like 1,200 calories, and then we slowed your metabolism down, so now you're gaining weight on 1,200 calories, and then you binge because you feel so restricted. Well, just because you binge doesn't mean your metabolism is going to upregulate, right? You're still down here. And then you go on another diet. You're like, oh shit, now I have to eat 1,000 calories. This sucks. But then you don't even make it that far on that one, and then you gain the weight back again. And now you're down here, and your metabolism's down here, and your fat gain is up here. And then you repeat it, and this gap gets wider and wider and wider every time you do this to yourself. So that's why we talk about this inside out approach, where we have to work on things from the inside out and like do it right, because the more times you try to chase fast fat loss, especially if you have had those instances in the past, the worse and worse and worse and more challenging it is going to get for you. Does that make sense, you guys? Have you experienced that? Right? The great thing is you can upregulate your metabolism. It does take time. It does take strategy and, fine tuning of your nutrition, your supplements, your micros, your macros, all of that. And what we focus on at Cut and Conquer is teaching our clients how to feel in control of their food, right? Proper portioning, realigning hunger cues, learning what works for their bodies when it comes to nutrients and, your carbs, your proteins, your fats, all of that. And the key word there is teaching, because to be completely honest, the biggest mistake I made in my career in fitness at the beginning was trying to do absolutely everything for my clients, because they didn't learn anything, right? They did not learn anything. slip ups do have to happen in order for you to learn how to respond to them and move forward, right? Trying to do everything for someone enables them to just blindly follow, learn nothing, and have no tools for success after the program, right? So Shannon is here right now. I don't know if Kate is still here. Alana, Jess, you guys are here. They are all past clients who've done at least one program with us. Some of them have done multiple. And they've moved on to have even more success after. Like, I think Kate is down like another 100 pounds after working with us or something like that. I don't know the exact number, but it's like a crazy amount. If you guys are here, drop in a comment. Sorry, my throat is really sore, you guys, from talking so much. Okay. Also, with binge eating, because I know a lot of you guys have struggled with that, as did I, as did Ramsia. We don't recommend flexible dieting or macro tracking when you are in the midst of battling binging, right? That's why we typically use a structured nutrition plan for our clients who come into the program working on overcoming binge eating, right? It's very simple because then we tell you essentially exactly what to eat and you can follow it word for word. But the way that we do design those plans is it's like we're telling you exactly what to eat, but you still have like at least 3 options per macronutrient, right? So it's like, this is your meal. However, you could have like this or this for your carbs, this or this for your proteins, this or this for your fat, and these are the portions. So it is not restrictive at all, but it is very structured and it allows you to create that, predictable eating schedule. And it allows you to realize how these foods feel in your body. And it allows us to learn that about you in your check-ins. And it is a very helpful system. So, I want to make sure I'm getting back on track with my actual, notes, you guys. So, the thing is with a structured nutrition plan, it really helps you get back in accordance with your hunger cues and also learn volume eating. Okay. Volume eating Shannon dropped a comment, is so important when it comes to weight loss. Shannon says, so many of the meal plans you've made are still my everyday staples. Yeah, no, that's so true. Like, that's the case for a lot of our clients and past clients as well. And it's like when you learn macros, micros, and volume eating, and it does take some time. Like, Shannon worked with us for like 2 years, maybe, was it? I don't know, it was a while. And like, she was actually super successful even in the first year, but then she just wanted more in terms of leveling up, which is usually the case. Kate says, obsessed with the structured plan. I really feel bloated or gross when I follow this. I never thought I would have liked being a structured eater, but here I am. Yeah. And it's not that flexible dieting is bad. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but especially for clients who are just starting, or for those who are really looking to fine tune things, I do usually recommend structured. However, flexible dieting absolutely has its place, and it's important, in my opinion, to learn both eventually. And especially when it comes to volume eating, which is huge at Cut and Conquer, that is how, like, on prep, I could easily eat under 1,000 calories and stay so full. I had 0 cravings, you guys. Literally 0 hunger on my prep. There were days I was eating 800 calories. 800. Again, that is not recommended for health. I was extreme levels of low body fat. And I had an exit strategy to make sure that I didn't blow up after that, because it happens to a lot of competitors. It's also how I've managed to eat over 4,000 calories a day when I am bulking, or in my building phase. So it's because I'm eating very, very nutrient-dense foods that do not take up a lot of space in my stomach. Otherwise, I would not be able to consume 4,000 calories, right? And the other thing I was going to say in regards to that is, like, assuming you are working with a coach or a company that knows what they are doing, because some of them out there, like, fitness and nutrition is not a super regulated industry. So I will say, be mindful of who you decide to work with and make sure they have social proof of people like you who have actually worked with them and actually gotten results and actually maintained the results. That's the key. Because it's not nearly as hard to get the results as it is to maintain the results. So typically, it's not the problem for a lot of people isn't that you're eating necessarily too many calories or too few calories. It's the actual food choices that you're making are not in alignment with what your body needs given your goal. Does that make sense, you guys? Let me know. Sorry, my throat is starting to give out here. So flexible dieting. Yes, it can be useful. The great thing about it is it gives you more flexibility. I wouldn't, like, a lot of people think it's easier. Personally, I don't find it easier. Bella is here right now. Bella, do you find flexible dieting easier? Let me know. However, Bella is different. Courtney does flexible dieting. Courtney is another one of my clients. Courtney loves flexible dieting and freaking flourishes with flexible dieting. So again, it comes down to your personality, what your goals are, right? Again, when I'm doing a building phase, I love flexible dieting because my food choices matter a little bit less because I have more calories to work with. So if I eat something that is 500 calories and I have 3,000 calories that I'm working with, that is not a huge portion. But if I only have 1,500 calories and I eat something that is 500 calories, that took up a large portion of my day. Courtney says, I do. She loves flexible dieting. And Bella says, no, I like structure. Yeah, again, and both of those clients are so successful. They just have different preferences. The thing about flexible dieting is you also have to be disciplined. A lot of people are like, oh, I think it's easier. It's not necessarily easier. You still have to pre-plan. I think Courtney said it earlier. Like, she has to pre-plan her meal. She has to be intentional about what she's eating. The thing that as a coach, I love about flexible dieting, this is, in my opinion, the number one benefit of flexible dieting, especially with a coach, is I have the data, right? I have the hard data. I know exactly how much fiber Courtney is consuming. I know exactly how much sodium she is consuming. I know exactly what she is eating, when she's eating it, hard data. With a structured plan, I don't have that hard data. I trust that my clients tell me the truth in their check-ins and when I'm talking to them. But I don't have the hard data in front of me, right? So give and take, it depends on who you are and what's going on in your life. Now, if you guys have any questions, drop them in. We're going to shift gears and talk a little more about gut health before we wrap things up. So gut health is also very important. I know Bella, sorry, now I feel like I have something in my eye, you guys. I'm a mess tonight. Bella could probably also talk about gut health because she has had her fair share of gut health issues. But you can eat healthy and eat good and you can follow your plan and follow your macros and be on point. But if you're not able to properly absorb those nutrients, you're not going to see optimal progress. So what can cause an unhealthy gut? Meaning what can cause those imbalances in your gut and in your gut bacteria? Stress. Stress is typically number one and the biggest. Chronically elevated cortisol will change physiologically the environment in your gut, which is called your microbiome. So high levels of stress will change things metabolically for you. Now, again, your metabolism, a lot of people throw that around. Essentially what it is everything going on in your body that uses or takes energy. But stress will change your metabolic rate, right? Sleep will change your metabolic rate. It is constantly changing on a daily and hourly basis. Another interesting thing about gut health, like I feel like Europe is so much farther ahead. They have so much good like gut health science going on over there compared to North America. But if you guys even think about it, when you feel anxious, when you feel nervous, when you feel like heightened emotions, a lot of the time we actually feel them in our gut. That's why it's sometimes referred to as like your second brain. And there is so much new research coming out about gut health as well. It is honestly so fascinating. I wish I knew 100 times more than I do about it. There's so much to know. It is a huge science, like just gut health in general. A few other things that can affect the health of your gut microbiome and environment. Prescription medication, anti-inflammatories, naproxen, T3s, even Tylenol, Advil. Again, I never recommend taking Tylenol or Advil for muscle soreness from training, unless it is like excessive, because you do need inflammation. Inflammation, like cortisol, is something that gets demonized. You need inflammation or your muscles will not respond and grow. However, you want the right kind of inflammation, not the wrong kind of inflammation that we get from processed foods and high stress and lack of sleep and lack of recovery and hormone imbalances that come as a result of all of those things. Courtney, I did not know that. Which one? The Advil Tylenol? Yeah, because it takes away the inflammation that we created by ripping and tearing our muscles. And that's also why, for those of you who are not clients, you may not know this, like after a heavy weight training session or a heavy leg day specifically, because your legs are such big muscles, the weight on the scale will go up. No matter if you gained fat or didn't, it's because your muscles are inflamed, which is a good thing because then they're going to have a stimulus to grow. Your muscles grow when you are recovered. Your muscles do not grow in the gym. However, your muscles will pull in water to help them recover. Thus, the weight on the scale will go up after a heavy training day, more than likely. However, there are other factors that will influence that. Birth control, like oral as well as IUDs, except for the copper one. Any hormonal thing that you are taking is and can affect, obviously, your gut health. What do I suggest for sore muscles? I suggest the podcast on how sore is too sore. That is what I suggest. There's a ton of recommendations in there, but I do recommend L-glutamine. Personally, there is research that suggests that it's not like super effective, but personally, I notice a really big difference when I do take it, 5 grams daily. I think the majority of our clients who take it also notice a difference. So you can comment in if you do notice a difference. Personally, I notice a significant difference when I'm taking it versus when I'm not. Kelly, I swear prescriptions mess with my gut health. Yeah, especially if you're taking like any type of painkiller or like anti-inflammatory. It can be very, very, very hard on your gut. And then often they will prescribe you something to help with the, stomach issues that you're getting, which can in turn cause, elevated blood pressure and a ton of other issues, right? So food is medicine. Now, I'm not against prescription medications as a whole. Sometimes they are absolutely miracle and required, but a lot of things, you guys, can be healed through holistic nutrition and completely avoiding the drug industry. Again, like it's crazy how things work. Even if you watch like Netflix series about food, it's like, okay, who's funding that, right? Who is funding these big pharma companies and who's making the money off of your prescriptions? Because the more prescriptions that you get, someone is getting richer, right? And they really don't give a fuck about your health, okay? So just be careful, be mindful. Doctors, even though I know some that I think are amazing practitioners. And obviously doctors save lives every single day. I'm not against that. I hope that one day if I need a doctor, they're there to help me and save me. But doctors can be wrong. Dietitians can be wrong. I can be wrong. So always don't be afraid to go for a second opinion or, keep pushing if you feel like there is something up with your health or your hormones, right? Worst case, there's nothing wrong and you got a second opinion, right? It's your health. It's your life. You have one. Don't fuck it up, you guys. Gut health can also be screwed up by certain traumatic events. Car accident, breakup, miscarriage. That's a big one, actually. Losing your job, something like that. Not 100% of the time, but it can be correlated. Kelly, I believe in holistic healing, but unfortunately will be on meds for life. Yeah, and some people obviously have select conditions in which that's required. My gut health and I have a love-hate relationship. Yep. Bella also says L-glutamine heavily changes the game. When she forgets to take it at night, she can tell the following day. I am surprised of how much I can tell a difference when I take L-glutamine on my DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness, which is your soreness from training. Yeah, I that is what makes a big difference for me. And then check out that podcast. I don't remember the number. It's an older one, but it's called How Sore is Too Sore, Tips for Recovery. And then the other final thing that can screw up your gut health is the foods that you are eating or not eating. I do have a podcast on gut health too that talks a little more about pre and probiotics. Because again, a lot of people are like, oh, just take a probiotic. But if you don't know what type of probiotic you are supposed to get for your individual problem, you can completely screw it up even more, right? There's live bacteria in there. And do you know if that is the strain that you are requiring, right? Sometimes you need prebiotics. Sometimes you need probiotics. Sometimes you need postbiotics. Sometimes it's something else altogether. So be really careful with just buying a probiotic and slapping it into your body. Also, certain foods can be very, very hard on certain individuals' gut health. So I have a lot of clients. We have a lot of clients at Cut and Conquer who have significant issues digesting certain vegetables, or certain vegetables when they are not cooked, right? So if you're overeating salad, that can be very hard on your gut health, depending on who you are. I personally have zero issue with vegetables, like none, like no issues. But a lot of my clients do, a lot. Now here's the thing, again, with healing your gut, you can do like a temporary restriction in which you cut out select foods for a temporary amount of time and then gradually reintroduce them once you have rebalanced your gut or fixed your gut lining or balanced out the bacteria. Gut health can also cause cravings, you guys. I'm going way off track. So listen to the Gut Health podcast if you're interested. Excuse me. Bella says the podcast on sugar is also a good one. Yes, it says something about Halloween, but it's not just about Halloween. I linked it to someone, I can't remember who, someone talking about sugar cravings in the Facebook group. It's called Managing Sugar Cravings in Halloween or something. Really insightful in terms of the actual biology of how sugar works in your body. So finally, I was going to say 2 other foods, things that can very significantly affect gut health. Personally, both of these really affect my gut health. However, I have clients that these do not affect at all, right? So everyone is so very different. Dairy and gluten. They can be very inflammatory for certain people. I personally do not eat dairy at all, ever. I cut out dairy 2 years ago in January, and I have never, ever reintroduced it. I think I had like 1 charcuterie board last December, like a year ago. Sugar is evil. Sugar is not necessarily evil. You gotta listen to the Sugar podcast. It's not fair to say sugar is completely evil. However, dairy for me, and I have had the tests done. I do have a significant dairy sensitivity, not an allergy, but and I haven't tried to reintroduce it because, to be honest, I don't like dairy personally. The only thing that I like is Greek yogurt, and since I've cut it out, I have not missed it, even though I do love the Greek yogurt bowls. Like, they are really good, but like, I don't love them enough to bring them back into my life. However, I'm not against dairy. A lot of my clients eat dairy. The majority of them do. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, really great sources of protein. A lot of our meal plans for our clients include dairy, but I'm not really an advocate for dairy. And like, I find that sometimes cutting it out can be beneficial. For me specifically, it is very inflammatory. Like, I notice a significant increase in my inflammation when I consume dairy. And I also break out on my back and my shoulders. It was interesting because a couple of years ago, I was getting like acne on my shoulders and on my back, as well as like this weird skin discoloration on my like shoulders and back. And I literally couldn't figure it out. I thought it was from sweating too much. I was like, it must be from going to the gym and doing so much cardio right now. Like, I don't know what else this could be from. And then I cut out dairy and it went away and it has never came back since. So I'm like, that has to be it. But again, dairy is not bad. It comes down to your individual situation, right? Gluten is not bad. A lot of people are like, oh, I have gluten sensitivity. Like, no, you don't. You have an overeating problem. But gluten can be, for some people, not as many as dairy, in my opinion, in my personal experience, have sensitivities to gluten, even if you're not celiac, right? So with that one, sometimes it's more so like the amount of gluten that you're consuming, right, regularly, more so than gluten itself. However, just food for thought, you guys. Neither of those things are bad. Neither of those things need to be cut out or restricted completely, unless like you have a sensitivity. And likely if you do, as long as it's not an allergy or like celiac disease, you may be able to reintroduce that food fine in the future. So to wrap things up, I'm going to give you guys some things to avoid for weight loss and healthy hormones. Some quick tips, rapid fire. Avoid irregular sleep schedules. Avoid sleeping less than 6 hours per night. Try to sleep more than 8 if you possibly can, but try to avoid less than 6. Avoid blue light exposure in the evening and screen time. Avoid processed foods as much as possible within reason. Avoid alcohol within reason. Limit caffeine in the evening. Anything ideally like 3 p.m., 4 p.m. or later. Ideally cut caffeine. Stop blindly taking supplements. Know what your body actually needs and have the actual labs done, or be working with a professional that knows what you need. avoid, this one I said backwards, it's not an avoid, it's a do. Go for a massage if you have benefits specifically. Implement some type of short breathing techniques or meditations each day for at least 5 minutes. Everyone has 5 minutes where you can breathe. Oftentimes we're like we're not even breathing into our actual diaphragm, right? So that will also help so much with just regulating your system. It is so underrated. Jillian, I've spent way too much money on vitamin supplements. Stop doing it. A lot of supplements are a waste of money. A lot of them are a waste of money. Every single fat burner, do not buy it anymore, ever. L-carnitine is like, it's not necessarily a fat burner. It's sometimes useful. But anything that's like marketed as a fat burner, fucking throw it out and don't buy it ever again in your life because it doesn't work. It does not work. Hydrate. Drink more water. Also, good quality salt, sodium. That is an electrolyte. I like Himalayan pink salt, personally. I like it a lot. I do. Like, anyone who eats with me, which is pretty much just my spouse, knows that it's an embarrassing addiction. Like, I'm addicted to pink salt. I literally go through like a whole grinder of it in like a week. Anyways, okay. Salt is not bad for you. That's another misconception. Just like sugar is not necessarily completely evil, although it's ideally not something you want to have in excess. Be or avoid not being intentional with eating, meaning intentionally eating your food and intentional with when you are eating. Stop grazing, stop snacking. Stop eating too late at night. This is not to avoid weight gain. Kate says, Christina, yeah, I know, I have a pink salt problem. What was the thing I said? I got, what was that one, you guys? What did I say? I lost my train of thought now because Kate made me laugh. Eating too late at night. It's not because you're going to gain weight if you eat at night, right? Because again, it does come down to your calorie balance. However, you don't want to eat too late at night because it can cause issues with your gut health. It can cause issues with digestion. It can cause issues with your sleep. And if you're having issues with sleep, digestion, and gut health, typically that's going to affect everything else like we talked about tonight. So again, once in a while, it's not going to hurt you. But if it's a consistent thing where you're eating a large amount right before you go to bed, which I used to do, you guys, I used to just stuff my face and go straight to bed. It's not ideal. It's not going to help you if you're doing it regularly. Chew your food more. Not only is it going to help you feel full, not only is it going to help your digestive system, it's going to take you longer to eat your food. It's going to help you avoid overeating. Avoid never taking rest days. You need rest days. You need a minimum 2 rest days per week. 3 is also okay. Avoid excessive cardio regularly. Avoid putting yourself last. Put yourself first. You are number 1. I know our kids, we love our kids. You cannot fully serve your kids or be the best parent to your kids if you are consistently putting yourself as number 15 on your list. You need to be number 1. You need to take care of your health, because if your health is suffering, you're not able to show up for your kids. You're not able to show up for your spouse. You're not able to show up for your job. Stop slashing your carbs or your calories. Give your body time to adapt, and stop using a macro calculator to determine your macro goals. There was a study, you guys, done, and it had 3 groups of people. And it was done, they had 6 months to achieve their weight loss goal. I don't recall I think they all had different weight loss goals. So group 1 was kind of like the control group. They had a weight loss goal, and 6 months to achieve it. They stated their goal and they had 6 months. Group number 2 had 6 months to achieve their weight loss goal. They were also given a plan that was in alignment with them being able to achieve that goal, right? So they had a plan to get to that goal. That was group 2. Group 3 had a weight loss goal, 6 months to achieve it. They were given a plan of action as well as a coach for accountability, and they were required to say out loud every single day what their goal was and one action they were going to do to achieve that goal. Okay? Group 1, weight loss goal, 6 months. Group 2, weight loss goal, plan of action to achieve it, and 6 months. Group 3, goal, plan, Coach, daily affirmation. Drop in the comments what percent of people, drop it in the comments, you guys, achieved their goal from group 1. What percent? Let me know in the chat. And then let me know what percent of people from group number 2 do you think achieved their goal? And then let me know what you guys think group number 3 was. Jillian says none. Jillian, you have no belief. 0%. They did not know what they were doing. What percent from group 1? What percent from group 2? What percent from group 3? Kelly says 30% group 1. Jillian, group 2, 40, group 3, 85. Laura, 20, 20, 80. Group 2, 50. Randy says 5%, 40%, 95%. Bella says, love my stretching and the stretching videos you send to me. Does that count as breathing? Yeah, I would say yeah. As long as you're breathing when you're stretching. Bella also carries pink salt in her bag. Group 1, 5. Group 2, 40. Group 3, 85. Group 3, 100%. 100%. Okay, guys, I'll tell you the stats. Group number 1, with a goal and a timeline, 11%. So a little more faith than Jillian had. Group number 2, with a timeline, a goal, and a plan, 22%. 22%. So a lot of you guys are pretty close on that one, I think. And then group number 3, with a plan, a coach, a timeline, and an affirmation, 78%. 78%. Jillian says that's close to 0. It's pretty close. So, you guys, don't be group number 1. Don't be the person who says, I'm going to achieve this goal, but has no clue what the hell they're doing or how to get there, so you never do, right? You get stuck in that information overload, analysis paralysis. You know you want to achieve the goal, but you don't. Don't be that person. Group 2. Please don't be group 2. I did a training in the free group on fitness identities, right? Group 2 is that person that fears failure. They want to do everything themselves. They think they can do it themselves, and they're afraid to reach out for help. They are motivated, but they expect the program to work without education, without accountability, or without, knowing how to exit that goal and still maintain your work. And group number 3 is the person who has the motivation to achieve their goals. They invest in a coach to provide them the structure they need. They apply themselves. Is Amanda here? Amanda is such a good example of this, as well as Krista. Those are 2 of our relatively new clients, and they have dove headfirst into our resources. It is actually crazy. Yeah, they have been super impressive. Trudy also, I don't know if Trudy's still here. All of my old school clients, the OGs, they've watched all of them, but they've also been here for 2 years. So essentially what I'm saying is be number 3. I don't want to see you guys in this challenge next year struggling with the same shit. Don't do it. Laura says, without Christina, I'd be totally lost. I don't know if I would be totally lost, but Laura is someone who literally applies herself every single day, sends me updates, in-depth, thorough updates of her shit, of her, not in-depth in a crazy way, but in a constructive way. It's very helpful. Same with Joan, right? All of those clients, Kate as well. Anyways, moral of the story, you guys can do it on your own. It is possible and it can be done. But it is going to be a hell of a lot easier with some help, with clarity, with a structured program, and the willingness to also do the self-work, right? Putting in that work to strengthen your weaknesses, to accelerate your strengths, right? And to invest in the process of learning, right? Learning the why behind things so that you can take that with you long term, and learning how to fall back in love with a body that you are proud to have built. Shannon says, Dito. We appreciate you, Shannon. So if you got value, go ahead and take a screenshot, share it to your Instagram story, give me a tag at Nifina at Cut and Conquer Fitness. Let us know if you like the challenge. You can also tag Healthy Double if you want to. I'm going to announce the other winner of, we're going to be giving away 4 of our 8 seasonings. But before I announce the winner was here. I don't know if she is still here. The challenge number 3, you guys, it's an easy one, but this is my favorite and most meaningful, I think. Challenge number 3. Which of the 3 live streams was your favorite? And tell us why. And list 1 or 2 new things that you learned from this challenge. All right. That is your challenge number 3. I am going to post it in the group. I'll pin it to the top. Excited to see what you guys learned. And the winner of 4 seasonings, she was here, don't know if she's still here, is Nicole Webb. So, Nicole Webb, drop me a DM